So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for those of you who took the time to join us today. We are C3 Business Solutions, and today we are going to have a webinar for construction and engineering companies. Before we get started, I'm going to quickly do some introductions. My name is Janice Love. I work in sales here at C3, along with Sean Moore. He is our VP of sales. He's been here for 23 years. We are headquartered here in Newport Beach, California. We actually just celebrated our 25-year anniversary, so we've been doing this for quite some time now. We started out doing mostly EBS implementations, but over the last decade or so, we've been working to get our team cloud certified. One of the unique things about us at C3 is that we are local. Our entire team is local. We do not outsource any of our employees, which allows us to come on site for customers and really build that partnership. All of our customers are referenceable and range from all industries, including financial services, manufacturing, retail, and construction and engineering, which is who we want to focus on today. We can see a little bit here that Prescient and MPC are two of our major customers in the industry. This here is just kind of showing you what we implemented and kind of what Oracle helped them to achieve. And with that, I am going to pass it off to Brian, who is actually the real star of the show today. And he's going to be taking the lead on this webinar and kind of walking you through how Oracle can help you transform your business. So Brian, if you want to do a quick intro and then go ahead and get started.
Great, thanks, Janice. Again, my name is Brian Wilkinson. I'm a solution consultant and associate principal here at C3. Going on my 18th year with C3, so been around in the industry for quite some time. As Janice said, today we want to take a look at the components that really make up a project organization, right? And with a focus on construction and engineering. There's some very specific things that folks in this industry have to deal with. So let me share my screen. We'll start to jump in. You know, some of the things that we typically see, right? Hey, how do we handle things like retainage? How do we get reporting easily out of our system? You know, how do we manage our project? How do we do project billing? All of those things are paramount to construction and engineering. So wanted to take a look at the components that really make up a project organization. And we're going to start at the core, right? And that's the project itself. So, you know, just a quick overview here. You know, when you log into Oracle, you're going to come to what we call the springboard. And this is really where you start and you can jump around to different parts of the system, right? This is going to be based on the roles that you have. So it's easy to control security for different users. You'll notice that we also have some analytics across each one of these modules. Now, these are actionable infolets, we call them. So from here, you know, I have some for general accounting. I can go and do my period close or open periods as needed. I can jump around to some ports. You can also personalize these. So if there's specific data that you want to see in one of these areas, then you could add that to an infolet, put it right here on your home screen for you to access. Okay. Like I said, let's start with the project itself. So I'm going to jump into project financial management, and really we're going to go take a look at how a project's configured. And I really want to focus on the work breakdown structure, right? Because that's really where everything's going to live. So let's narrow this down. I'm going to use a project here, 18100, and let's drill into that. So the first thing that we come to is really our project overview, right? This is all of our basic information. Hey, what's our customer name? What's our start and finish dates? Who the team members associated to this? You know, you could attach any documentation. Maybe you have this associated to a contract. We do have a financials tab here. And if you associate this to a contract with your customer, you're going to get some KPIs under financials to see, hey, how much have I billed? How much revenue have I recognized? You can kind of get that at a glance here. What's my budget, right? That's another big one. So some basic information that we capture kind of at the project overview here. Like I said, I want to focus mainly on our work breakdown structure, right? Our project plan and how this is really structured for this industry. Right? Now, you can tailor this to whatever makes sense for you, but in this case, we have our top level project, and then we have cost codes, right? So each one of these is its own individual cost code. And as I expand down this tree, we get down into individual cost codes, right? And then we have resources associated to each one of those cost codes. So if I look at my resources, I could say, hey, this is a financial resource, which is pretty basic. One of the things Oracle does really, really well is a resource breakdown structure, right? How am I going to budget for my project? Now, in this case, pretty simple, right? It's money, okay? But if you wanted to budget individual people, maybe you're budgeting by the job, hey, a carpenter, a laborer, whatever the case might be, you can define those resources and build your budget with those resources. Maybe it's not people, maybe it's, hey, I need equipment. I need, whatever it may be, we can create a resource breakdown structure to accommodate how you budget, right? And you can get extremely granular with that, down to individual nuts and bolts if needed. No, one of the references we have is Prescient, and that's what they do. They actually budget down to literally the nuts and bolts of their projects and then have all that cost roll up so they can quickly see, hey, how much did I spend on a fastener for this building, right? So pretty neat stuff. Okay. A few other things right here in your project plan. You're going to have access to a ton of information. As we kind of scroll over, you'll see that, hey, we can determine that this task is chargeable. Is it billable? How do I want to calculate my estimate to complete? What are my actual costs to date for this particular task, and how does that roll up to my parent and ultimately to my entire project, right? So you can have all that information right here at the tips of your fingers. Before I move on from this, is there any questions? I want to make this interactive, so if there's questions, feel free to to jump in and ask as we go along.
Yeah, Brian, really quickly, you said you can get as granular as you want to with this interface. I'm just kind of curious if there are some aspects that you're not showing here that a customer might want to be able to see.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's you can. Right now, we're only going down 2 levels on our work breakdown structure. We have some clients that go down, 6 or 7 or 8 levels on the work breakdown structure and get very granular in how they roll up their task, right? And how that parent-child task relationship works and how that ultimately rolls up to the project. And again, as you can see here, I haven't gone through it, but I'll show you all of the information that we have available right in this project plan, right? I won't spend a ton of time, but just tons and tons of information right here at your fingertips that you can kind of go pull into your project plan. If you want to take something off, this is one thing that's really nice. I like to see more information, so I pretty much have everything in here. But using this view, you can go in and say, hey, gosh, you know what? We're not really using milestones. Let's take that out, right? And you'll see this milestones will drop off. So, simple things like that, where you're not going to have to go call C3 or call a developer to go and adjust the view for you. That's all really user driven and something that they can easily personalize themselves.
Right on. Thank you.
Yeah, great question. All right. So now we have this project plan. We have our cost. What do we do with those costs, right? So I'm going to jump over into project costing really quick. So back to our project from here, we could jump into costing. I happen to have a cost open, save you guys a few clicks. So, same project here. I've navigated over to project costing, right? You can see I'm using the same project. And this is where every single expenditure that's hit my project is gonna lie, right? It's all gonna be in here. You can go and query. Now you can query everything like I did. This is every single cost for the entire life of the project, or you can filter those by task, by, hey, what's my source? Where's it coming from? And if you really want to get narrow those results down a little bit more, you can use an advanced search and again, really narrow down what you're looking for. Okay. I queried everything, as I'd mentioned, and just looking at this, let's drill into one of these costs. I'm going to pick this one here. So we'll drill into that transaction. And what you're going to see, this is all of the expenditure information. So what project was it associated to? When did we incur the cost? What org is it from? Now, one of the really cool things is again, access to information. So I can see, hey, this came from a supplier invoice, and I can go and look at this and actually drill back right from my cost to that supplier invoice. So if I'm a project accountant and I need to go track down a cost and look at the invoice, I can quickly go, okay, let's go back to the invoice, look at that cost. I can see that this came from a purchase order. And look at that, I can drill all the way back to that PO, right? All the way back to the source of that transaction. View that data and take any action that I need to from there, right? So it's completely connected from one end to the other, which is really nice, especially for a project accountant. You're living in the project, you're living in costing, you want to see what's going on. You have that ability to kind of drill all the way back to the actual purchase order. Okay, and we're gonna spend a little bit more time. We're gonna get into these subcontracts and a little bit in payables as well. But wanted to start at costing, because that's from a project accountant standpoint, that's going to be the most important. Okay, so we'll be coming in here next. So let me go back up a few levels, back to our project expenditure here. So what kind of action can I do right from this project expenditure? Okay, so I have this and I went, wow, you know what? Honestly, this was supposed to hit a different project. It was potentially coded wrong. What can I do? Okay, and the nice things, you have a ton of different functions. So I have the ability to come in and transfer this to another project. Maybe it's the correct project, but I just need to transfer it to a different task within the project. I can quickly do that here. Right, a few other actions, right? Splitting that. Hey, I need to split this across 2 projects or 2 different tasks. Maybe I need to do both at the same time, or potentially just reverse it all together. Okay. A few things that we haven't got into, right? We're not going to really cover capital projects today, but if you do have capital projects and you're building an asset, there's a ton of functionality around how we capitalize cost and have that go into work in process, okay, and all the underlying accounting that goes into that, right? So really quickly be able to do those sorts of things. Again, everything gets tracked, so any adjustments, I reversed it, I split, I transferred it, whatever the case may be, you're going to have that here for auditing, right? Which is really nice. Of course, a few other things we're not covering: intercompany. If you have multiple entities that are doing work for each other, you have all that intercompany billing, potentially borrowed and lent accounting as well. So lots of functionality there that we can certainly dive into in another session if needed. Questions on project costing or anything that we've kind of shown here? All right. So now what I'd like to do is go in, and so we've looked at how the project was set up. We've kind of looked at managing project cost. Well, what about the other side of it? How do we define our subcontract, and how do we define what retainage we're gonna hold on invoices for our subs? Where do we set that up, right? So let's navigate over there. Another way you can navigate throughout Oracle, we call it the Navigator. a pretty fancy name. And we're going to jump into procurement and specifically purchase orders. And the way this is working is these purchase orders that we're creating are our subcontracts. Okay. So in this instance, we have a connection with Textura that does some additional subcontract management. It's another Oracle product. You can also connect to, things like Procore, or if you don't have any of that, that's fine as well. You can handle all of that retainage directly in Oracle now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and query up again, sticking with the same project here. I'm going to query up a purchase order, and again, very similar to what we saw when we drilled back from the project expenditure. But what I really wanted to focus on is the schedule of values here. Okay, so we're entering our lines, which are essentially our schedule of values. We're giving that a description, right? Obviously, our price and our quantities, all of those good things. And then what we're doing is we're tying that. Again, I like to see everything, so you could always adjust the view if you don't need all this information. But then we're tying that to our project and our task, right? And this is where we're connecting it to our project, right? So we could start to see things like committed cost, right, on the project. I have all these open subcontracts. How much, what's my remaining commitment across all of my subs? You could start to get that kind of reporting by associating this, subcontract to your project. And then furthermore, as I mentioned, we want to define retainage. Now, one of the big pain points we've had with some other clients is like, hey, I can do this, but I can only define retainage kind of at the header level. So it's kind of an all or nothing thing. Well, here you'd see we're defining retainage at the line level. So, these first handful of lines, we're going to retain 10%. And then, the last couple, there is no retainage, right? So you can control that right here at the line level and determine how much retainage you're taking from the subs. Now, not everybody does retention the same way. Some folks do kind of a 30, 30, 30, 10 method, which in that case, you probably wouldn't need to define any type of retainage percentage. So lots of different ways you can handle that. And then obviously the underlying accounting for that, typically that retainage would go into a retention account. So at any time you can go look at GL and say, hey, I have X amount of dollars in my retainage account. Okay. So now that we've created our subcontract, the sub is starting to do work for us. They're starting to bill us for the work. So now what, right? Now we're going to go and take a look at an invoice. And again, I'm going to keep it with this purchase order and this project. Okay. So before we navigate away from the purchase order and the subcontract here, any questions on how this works? Sounds good. So let me get out of here again. I'm going to navigate and I'm going to jump over to payables from here and invoices. Now, lots of cool stuff in payables. I'm not going to spend a ton of time here, but one of the things that folks love is the ability to have invoices scanned, right? The vendor can send their invoice to essentially kind of an email address. That's going to get picked up, scanned by Oracle, and then it's going to create the invoice for you, right? Folks love it. It works really well. And the nice part is it kind of gets smarter, right? There's some AI learning behind there that the more that you use the scanning in the web center, and kind of point to where things are supposed to go, the smarter it gets. It remembers and kind of learns. So really cool functionality that cuts down on invoice processing a ton. As I mentioned, I want to take a look at a specific invoice though. I'm going to jump in, go query up our invoice number, and drill in here. So nothing earth shattering on the AP side. It's an AP invoice. But what's really neat here is, again, this invoice was from that subcontract, less retainage, right? So we can go and take a look at that retainage held amount here based on the line that was matched to the invoice, right? So if you're going in, you're matching to your subcontract here. If we look at the distributions, you can see where we're matched to that particular purchase order and where we're withholding that retainage amount. Okay. So again, there's a bunch of underlying accounting that happens here that's going to be specific to you, how you define your chart of accounts, how you define those segments. But at the end of the day, most folks are going to have some type of retainage account. So when that retainage is withheld, it's going to go sit in that account. So you could always go take a look at how much retention you have there, right? So again, tied to our project, tied to our purchase order and our PO line, right? It's our subcontract and schedule of values there. And then that retainage amount that's withheld. Pretty neat stuff. Any questions on AP? Right. Now I want to get into some of the fun stuff, right? And this is where I think things really start to come together, and that's reporting. Okay. One of the big things, and I think Oracle does this extremely well, is empowering users to create their own reports. On top of that, you can get really complex in how you build reports. And an example of that, one of the things that we've been able to do is generate an AIA invoice directly out of Oracle, right? So I'm going to jump in. I'm going to show you what that looks like. So here, again, this is generated right out of Oracle. This is the bill that's getting sent to the job owner. As you can see, all of our contract and project information is captured here in the header. And then we get down into the detail, right? Back to our work breakdown structure, all of our tasks, and then all of the information that's required in an AIA report. So this is huge for a lot of construction companies that are required to provide these to their job owners when they do their draws every month. And now, instead of taking that, dumping that, doing a bunch of Excel gymnastics, or whatever the case may be, all you have to do is go in, enter your project, which period the draw is for, and it's going to spit out your AIA report based off of all that other information that and work that you've been doing in the system. So really, really neat stuff here. Ton of other reports that we see or all the time. One's a cost entries by job. All right. So hey, I just want a quick peek at my project and kind of a roll up of task, right, and cost. Right. So really quick and we do have an Excel version. All of these reports you can grab and dump into PDF, dump into Excel. There is Word and a few others as well. Pretty much all the Microsoft projects, you can take and dump all this data into there pretty quickly. Another one we see quite a bit is a work in process cost report, right? By project, it's going to come in and show me, hey, what's my job to date cost? What's my earn to date profit? What's been billed? What's under or over billing? All that information is pulled into this report for just to get a quick health check at the executive level for your projects. Okay. Obviously, there's tons of other great reports. The last thing that I really wanted to spend a few minutes on, and again, like I said, one of the things that I think Oracle does extremely well is give the user the ability to go and build their own reports. Okay. And it's extremely simple. It's not something that you need a consultant or you're going to need Oracle to come in and help you with. Oracle's done a lot of the work for you, right? So let me just give you a quick example, kind of a quick work project example. So when we come into the BI catalog, the business intelligence catalog, we have the ability to go and create, oh, it looks like my session got a little still there. Let me jump back in. But we have the ability to create what's called an analysis, right? Using a pre-built subject area, okay? So we can come in, again, build an analysis, and Oracle's defined all of these different subject areas across the entire system. And you can see there are a ton across all the modules, costing, financials, all the different financials modules. I'm going to get all the way down, save you a few scrolls here, and go to the one specific to projects. Okay, so now we get into project billing, project control, costing, tons of different things. I'm going to use one that I really like. It's kind of a cross subject. Okay, so once you pick your subject area, it's going to take you to the report building canvas. Okay, on the left-hand side here are all of the attributes that we can pull into our report, and they're grouped really nicely. Employee or project or resource, whatever the case may be. So in this case, I want to pull in my project and my task and my cost for that task so far. Okay, so all I have to do, I expand my folder. Now I get into all the attributes that I can start to pull into my report. And I want to focus. Let's see. I want project number. I want project name. So you can just double click, or you can drag and drop, which is really simple and easy. Maybe you want project name first, just kind of move those around like so. And then, once you kind of have a few attributes, you can say, okay, well, I don't need to see all the projects. I'm looking for one individual. So let's filter that down to the project we've been looking at. Okay. And then let's start to look at our results. Okay. So what that's going to do, it's going to go query all the results based on what we have. Now, we could still continue to add to our report here. All right, so the next thing I want to look at is, hey, I want to see cost. Okay, so I can expand my cost measures, and I want to pull in all those costs. And I'll requery my data, and now I'm looking at all of the cost for this particular project and the cost codes. So again, really quick and easy. Let's go a little bit further. I want to do a little formatting on this, make it look a little better. So let's drill in here, and I want to format the numbers to what I would prefer to use, right? So that's going to open up really more of a formatting screen where you could start to group things, where you can do some of that column formatting. Okay, so here, again, I want to format my cost. Okay, so column properties, data formats, and I'm going to override the original. Let's go with a currency. And I do like the dollar symbol, and I want 2 decimal places, right? So you have all this control. And again, it's not rocket science. It's something that anybody can come in here and start to play with. You're not going to hurt anything. Say that, and you can see there you go. It's changed. So really quick, easy stuff. We want to save that. Just click done. Now it's not just for pulling data. Yeah, pulling data in a table is nice. But what about when I want to start to take this data and visualize it? Okay, we could do that here as well, right? So we have all of these different graphs and charts and data visualization tools here, right? So maybe we can take this, throw that into a pie chart, and it's going to go. And obviously this one, we have a ton of different tasks here. So tries to do its best to display some data, but then you could start to go in and and look at the slices, right? So you can drag and drop, and there you go. Now I can quickly see, hey, gosh, this task has taken up the chunk of my cost. Then some other ways to make it look a little nicer for you. So pretty cool, really easy to do, and this is something that's I think every single client absolutely loves. The ability for their users to go and do some of this stuff themselves versus waiting on a developer to write them a report. Okay. Any other questions before we wrap things up, or anything else that you guys like to see? I know we have a couple minutes here. Again, if there's anything that was covered today or not covered today that you'd really like to see, happy to do a follow-up session or have another conversation, whether that be specific to things like capital projects or if you really want to get into contracts and project billing, we could spend some more time on that area, whatever the case may be. Or maybe you want to dive deeper into some of this analytics stuff, which is really neat. Just let Janice or Sean know. I'm happy to have a follow-up session.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. And thank you to